Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're exploring one of the world's great natural sweet wines, Tokaji Aszú. And really, you might need to forget everything you think you know about sweet wine.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
This is something else entirely. A golden nectar, you could say,
Right.
with a story just as rich as its flavor, rooted deep in Hungary's Tokaj-Hegyalja region.
It's more than just a wine region, isn't it?
It really is. It's a place where the vine is just woven into the history, the culture, the very ground itself. We're talking centuries of tradition here.
Exactly. So we've gathered our sources, articles, historical accounts, some scientific research too, to really get under the skin of what makes this wine so special. Our mission in this deep dive is basically to pull out the most important knowledge, the surprising facts, those core insights, just for you, our listener.
Yeah, get to the heart of it.
We'll journey through its past, uncover the secrets of its unique home, understand how it's actually made, which is fascinating, and appreciate why it holds such a prestigious place in the wine world.
It's a fantastic story. It's nature's, well, unpredictable beauty meeting human dedication and resilience. Definitely resilience.
Okay, let's start at the beginning then. How far back does winemaking actually go in Tokaj?
Oh, way back. Ancient history, really.
Yeah.
We have records confirming vineyards there as early as the 12th century, medieval times.
Wow.
And this wasn't just, wild vines. It was deliberate cultivation. Initially driven by diligent monks, they were meticulous record keepers, land managers.
Right, the monasteries often were.
And later, by powerful nobles who saw wine as, well, a status symbol, they invested in developing the techniques.
Setting the stage. But the true legend of Tokaji, the thing that makes it unique, that involves something pretty unusual, doesn't it? Noble rot.
It absolutely does. The defining element is Botrytis cinerea, often called noble rot, and the story of its discovery. Well, it sounds almost too perfect, like a legend.
Go on, share the legend.
Okay, the most famous version dates to the 17th century. Story goes, there was a Turkish siege threatening the region, which meant the grape harvest got significantly delayed. Grapes left hanging much longer than usual, and they developed this fuzzy mold, the Botrytis.
So they looked ruined.
Pretty much. But facing potential disaster, the winemakers decided, maybe just out of desperation, to try vinifying these affected grapes separately.
Yeah.
And what they got was astonishing.
How so?
A wine of incredible sweetness, density, really intense aromatics, totally unlike anything they'd made before.
So an accident born out of conflict, that's amazing.
Precisely. But, the accident was just the beginning. The real genius was recognizing the potential in that unexpected result.
Seeing past the mold.
Exactly. And then dedicating themselves to understanding and perfecting the conditions needed to encourage and harness that noble rot reliably. That leap from accident to intentional craft, that's a key insight here.
And I guess that unique wine quickly gained fame.
Oh, it became incredibly sought after. Tokaji Aszú earned that famous nickname, the wine of kings and the king of wines, all across Europe.
Who was drinking it?
Royal courts loved it. Louis XIV in France, Catherine the Great in Russia, Emperor Franz Joseph, they couldn't get enough. Its rarity, its complexity, that sheer lusciousness, it made it the ultimate symbol of luxury and refinement.
And it wasn't just famous for taste. It actually holds a really unique place in wine history, legally speaking.
Yes, this is crucial for understanding Tokaj's significance. In 1737, the Tokaj-Hegyalja region became the very first official, classified, demarcated wine region in the world by royal decree.
The first. Before Bordeaux, before Burgundy.
Way before their formal classifications. It's remarkable. It just shows how highly valued and protected it was, even centuries ago.
That really does underscore its historical importance.
Wow.
But its journey wasn't all smooth sailing, was it? What challenges did the region face?
No, definitely not. There were several tough periods. Military conflicts repeatedly disrupted trade, production. You know how it goes.
Yeah.
Then in the late 19th century, like pretty much everywhere in Europe, Tokaj got hammered by phylloxera.
The vine loess.
Exactly. That aphid just destroyed vineyards. They had to undertake massive replanting, mostly using American rootstocks that were resistant.
Tough blows. But presumably they bounced back from that.
They did, but maybe the biggest setback, the one that really hurt its reputation, came in the 20th century, the communist era.
How did that affect things?
Vineyards were collectivized. The state-controlled system focused overwhelmingly on quantity, mass production, not quality.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. And that period severely damaged Tokaji Aszú's international reputation. The king of wines had, well, fallen pretty dramatically from grace.
A really difficult chapter, but there's a comeback story here, right? A renaissance.
Absolutely, a powerful one. After communism ended in 1989, there was this huge drive to restore Tokaji's former glory.
Money involved.
Significant investment, yeah.
Yeah.
Both foreign and domestic money flowed in. Growers, winemakers, many drawing on deep family traditions. They combined that historical knowledge with modern tech and just a passionate commitment to quality.
So it was about reclaiming that heritage, but also looking forward.
Exactly that. Understanding the terroir again, finding the best plots, reviving meticulous vineyard work, refining the winemaking, and the result. Tokaji Aszú has made a remarkable comeback. It's celebrated globally again as one of the finest sweet wines on earth. And, a source of huge national pride for Hungary.
That resilience is fascinating. And that comeback, it's built on the land itself, right? What makes the terroir of Tokaj-Hegyalja so uniquely suited for Aszú?
The terroir really is the secret sauce. Geographically, you're in the northeast of Hungary. It's a valley, sort of U-shaped, right where the Bodrog and Tisza rivers meet.
How do the rivers play a role? Are they important?
Oh, critically important. They act as natural thermal regulators, for one. But even more importantly, they generate the high air humidity needed, especially in autumn.
Ah, humidity for the Botrytis.
Exactly. Fundamental for it to develop. And then you have the surrounding hills forming this kind of natural amphitheater. Protects the vineyards, offers varied slopes, different altitudes for ripening.
And the climate itself.
It's broadly continental, cold winters, hot, dry summers. But it's the autumn that's truly magical for Aszú production. It's characterized by these dense morning fogs rising from the river valleys.
Okay.
They just hug the vineyards. Then they're followed by clear, sunny, and often quite windy afternoons.
That sounds like a very specific, almost tailor-made weather pattern you need.
It is, and it's absolutely essential for noble rot. That morning humidity lets the Botrytis fungus flourish on the grape skins, creating tiny little pores.
Right.
But the crucial part is the afternoon sun and wind. They dry the grapes through those pores, concentrating sugars, acids, aromatic compounds.
Without the berries just rotting away completely.
Precisely. It's this very specific dance between the fog and the sun that allows noble rot to develop in that beneficial way, concentrated the grapes into those precious Aszú berries.
That dynamic climate sounds absolutely vital. What about the soils? They're often described as volcanic, aren't they?
Yeah. They are indeed. The whole region sits on a base of ancient volcanic activity. So the soils are derived from things like rhyolite, andesite, and loess.
And what's important about that?
Well, they're very mineral rich.
And you can taste that in the wine.
People believe so, yes. That mineral composition is thought to contribute a characteristic minerality, a kind of flintiness sometimes, and also that refreshing freshness to the wines, which, as we'll get into, is absolutely essential for balancing the intense sweetness.
Makes sense.
Plus, the volcanic base gives excellent drainage, keeps the vine roots healthy, prevents waterlogging.
So the geography, the climate, the soils, it really is this perfect storm, a natural alignment for this specific wine style.
It truly feels like a gift from nature. But it's also about human understanding, accumulated over centuries. The varied topography and the river influence create loads of different microclimates within the region.
Ah, so it's not uniform.
Not at all. Winemakers and growers have generations of knowledge about which specific vineyard plots, based on their unique sun exposure, air circulation, humidity levels, are best suited for producing the absolute highest quality Aszú grapes.
Nature provides the stage, but humans direct the play.
Okay, let's talk performers. The grapes. What are the key varieties in Tokaji? I've heard of them called a sacred triad.
That's right. The sacred triad refers to the three main permitted varieties.
And who takes the lead role?
Furmint. Unquestionably the star. It's the most planted variety by far, and it provides the essential structure, the backbone, especially the acidity for Tokaji Aszú.
Tell me about Furmint.
Well, it buds early, which actually makes it a bit vulnerable to spring frosts, but then it ripens very late in the season.
And what does that late ripening achieve for the wine?
It allows it to build up this remarkable balance of both high sugar levels and very high acidity. That penetrating, vibrant acidity is the absolute soul of Tokaji Aszú.
Why so important? It's what cuts through the sweetness, makes the wine feel fresh and not cloying, and contributes massively to its incredible longevity.
High sugar and high acidity, that's a pretty unique combination in a grape.
It really is. And Furmint's physical characteristics help too. It has compact bunches and thin skins, which makes it particularly susceptible to developing botrytis.
Ah, so it welcomes the noble rot.
You can say that. Beyond its structure and acidity, it's also seen as the truest interpreter of Tokaji's volcanic terroir. You often get that characteristic minerality coming through with Furmint.
Okay, star player established. Who's the second member of this triad?
That would be Harslev. Its name actually means linden leaf, which gives you a hint about its aromatic profile.
Linden leaf. Interesting.
Yeah, it plays a crucial supporting role, complements Furmint beautifully.
How does it complement it? What does it bring?
Well, it's also susceptible to botrytis, but it tends to have slightly larger berries and, importantly, lower acidity than Furmint. Its key contribution is really on the aromatic complexity and the texture side.
So less structure, more perfume.
Kind of. It brings delicate floral notes, linden flower, acacia honey, sometimes exotic spices. Its softer acidity and more unctuous sort of rounded texture add body richness and elegance. It balances Furmint's sharp vivacity.
Okay, so Furmint is structure and freshness. Harslev is aroma and body. Who completes the triad?
Sarga muscatuli, or yellow muscat. This variety is usually used in smaller proportions, but it makes a really powerful impact aromatically.
Muscat is always aromatic, right?
Exactly. It's known for those intense primary fruit and floral notes.
What kind of aromas are we talking about here?
Think bright, vibrant citrus like orange peel, maybe Sicilian lemon, tangerine, delicate orange blossom too. It acts almost like a natural perfume counterpoint in the blend.
Ah, so it adds lift.
Precisely. It adds elegance, intense fragrance, and a lift of fresh vivacity that stops wine feeling heavy despite all that sweetness. It gives that signature fragrant top note.
Are there any other grape varieties allowed in the mix?
Yes, there are a few others permitted that can add extra layers of complexity, different nuances.
Such as?
There's Kverstulo, which translates roughly as fat grape. As the name suggests, it contributes unctuousness, body, and a rich, honeyed sweetness.
Okay.
Then there's Zeta, which used to be called Oremus. It's actually a crossbreed, specifically developed for its high sugar potential and susceptibility to botrytis. It adds potent sweetness and notes of crystallized fruit and spice.
Right. Any others?
And Kabar. It's an earlier ripening variety, but with quite pronounced acidity. It brings fresh citrusy notes and helps contribute to a refreshing, elegant balance in the final wine.
Wow. Quite a palette to work with. It sounds like the final blend is absolutely key then.
Oh, absolutely. The specific proportion of each grape used Furmint, Harslev, Sarga muscatuli, maybe a touch of the others. That's a huge decision for the winemaker, the entomologist. It profoundly shapes the final style, the complexity, the character of that specific Aszú. It's really where the winemaker's art meets the gifts of nature.
Okay, let's get into the defining process itself, how these special Aszú grapes actually become the wine. It all starts with that unique climate, creating the noble rot, as you said.
Right. As we discussed, you absolutely need that very particular autumn weather pattern. The morning fog for the rivers provides the dampness for Botrytis cinerea to start growing on the grape skins.
And fungus gets a foothold.
Exactly. And then, crucially, the sunny, windy afternoons dry the grapes out through those tiny micropores the fungus created.
And that dehydration is the key step.
Critically important. It concentrates absolutely everything inside the berry. The sugars, the acids, the aromatic compounds. The grape basically shrivels, changes color, becoming these wrinkled, intensely flavored Aszú berries. They look almost like raisins, but they're so much more complex.
And harvesting those berries, I hear it's incredibly painstaking.
It's unbelievably labor-intensive, a true ritual of selection. Because botrytis doesn't affect every berry uniformly, not even within the same bunch.
So you can't just pick whole bunches.
No way. The harvest has to be done by hand, literally berry by berry.
Berry by berry, that must take forever.
It requires multiple passes, or tries as they call them, through the vineyard. Sometimes over several weeks, maybe even months, depending on how the noble rot develops in a particular year. Workers go back to the same vines again and again, picking only those individual berries that have reached the perfect stage of botrytization.
Wow.
This meticulous selective harvesting is just fundamental to the quality and concentration of the final Aszú wine.
Okay, so you've painstakingly gathered these individually selected Aszú berries. What happens next?
Traditionally, these incredibly precious Aszú berries are collected. They're often gently pressed or sometimes just allowed to sit to form this thick, dense, incredibly aromatic paste. The Aszú paste.
Paste, not juice.
Think of it more like a highly concentrated essence of the botrytized grapes. Almost like the soul of the wine, but in a semi-solid form. It's that concentrated.
Okay, I think I get it. And this paste is then added to a base wine?
Exactly. The traditional method involves adding measured amounts of this Aszú paste to a base wine. or sometimes to fresh, unfermented grape juice made from healthy, non-botrytized grapes from the same region.
And this is where that famous classification comes in, Putonios.
Precisely. The Putonia system originates from this process.
Putonios. What does that actually mean? What does it signify?
Historically, a putonio was the traditional wooden basket or hod that harvesters carried on their backs. It typically held about 25 kilograms of these hand-picked azu berries.
Okay, a specific measure.
Yes. And the number of these putonios, these baskets of azu paste, added to a standard barrel, usually a Gunchi barrel of about 136 liters of base wine, or must became the traditional way to classify the wine's sweetness, its richness, its overall intensity.
So the more baskets of berries added, the sweeter and richer the resulting wine. Is that the idea?
Pretty much. The number directly indicates the concentration of azu berries that went into that particular blend. Historically, the classifications range from 3 to 6 putonios. A higher putonios number means more consents. Azu paste was used relative to the base wine, resulting in a sweeter, richer, generally more intense and complex wine.
Got it. Makes sense. Now, what about the fermentation process with all that incredible sugar? Is it quick? Does it zip right along?
Oh, far from it. Fermentation is typically incredibly slow. It can take months, sometimes even years in extreme cases, because the yeast struggles in that super high sugar environment.
Right. Too much sugar can inhibit yeast.
Exactly. So careful temperature control is absolutely essential during this long, slow fermentation to make sure it proceeds correctly and, crucially, to preserve all those delicate aromatic compounds that were concentrated in these azu berries.
Does it always ferment until it's dry, or does it stop early?
No. In fact, because of those extremely high sugar levels, the fermentation often stops naturally well before all the sugar is converted to alcohol.
Yeah.
It leaves a significant amount of residual sugar.
And that's okay.
That's the magic. The wine's naturally high, vibrant acidity steps in to balance this intense sweetness. It prevents the wine from being heavy or cloying and creates that beautiful harmony that defines azu.
Okay, so after this long, slow fermentation, where does this golden liquid go to mature?
Aging traditionally takes place in oak barrels, often smaller Hungarian oak barrels, sometimes sourced from specific forests known for quality, like Gunk or Sardinay.
Is Hungarian oak different from, say, French or American oak?
It has its own characteristics. It's known for being a bit more porous, allowing for slightly more oxygen exchange than, say, new French oak.
And what's the benefit of that slight porosity?
It allows for a very controlled, slow oxidative development. This gentle exposure to oxygen over time is really crucial for developing the complex tertiary flavors, nuts, caramel, honey, spice, and that smooth, velvety texture that characterize beautifully aged Tokaji Aszú.
And the cellars themselves are quite famous too, aren't they? Dug into the rock.
Oh, the underground cellars in Tokaj are legendary. They're dug deep into the volcanic tough rock, and they provide remarkably stable conditions year-round. Cool, constant temperatures, and naturally high humidity.
Ideal for aging wine.
Absolutely. And they have another unique feature that actually aids the aging process.
Which is?
The walls of these ancient cellars are often covered in this thick, black, velvety mold. It's a harmless fungus called Cladosporium cellaire.
A mold on the cellar walls?
Yeah. It doesn't affect the wine directly, but it thrives in the high humidity and actually helps to regulate the cellar's atmosphere, maintaining those perfect conditions for long, slow maturation. It's part of the unique ecosystem of the Tokaj cellars.
That's fascinating. A beneficial fungus helping the wine age. How long do they typically age these wines? It sounds like a long process overall.
It is a long process. The aging duration varies depending on the style, the Putonios level, and the producer's philosophy, but it's significant. There's a minimum legal requirement, currently 18 months in barrel.
But often longer.
Oh yes, especially for higher Putonios wines and top producers. They'll often age them for much longer, maybe 2, 3, even more years in barrel, followed by several years, sometimes many, many years, maturing in bottle before they're released onto the market.
It really is a long waiting game for the winemakers and for us.
It is. But it's during this extended aging, both in the barrel with that gentle oxidation and then reductively in the bottle, that the wine truly develops its incredible complexity. Those initial fresh fruit notes evolve into layers of toasted nuts, deep honey, complex spices, dried fruits. It gains that characteristic velvety texture and achieves that perfect balance and harmony.
So the journey from berry to bottle is definitely not a sprint. It's a marathon. Okay, let's break down the specific styles then, starting with the Aszú wines based on that Putonios scale you explained.
Okay, yeah. Understanding the Putonios levels is really key to navigating the world of Tokaji Aszú. Now, the legal definitions have evolved a bit over time, especially recently, focusing more on minimum sugar levels. But that traditional scale of 3 to 6 petonios still gives us a really great framework for understanding the different levels of concentration and character.
Good. So what can you typically expect from, say, a 3 petonios Aszú, assuming you can still find one labeled that way?
Right, they're less common now under the new rules. But traditionally, a 3 petonios was the entry point, the lightest style of Aszú, offering the most subtle sweetness. It was known for its vibrant freshness and acidity, which made it feel quite light and elegant on the palate.
What about aromas?
You'd find aromas of fresh citrus, maybe white flowers, and often that telltale Tokaj minerality, very inviting, often quite food-friendly.
Okay, moving up the scale. 4 petonios.
Again, less common labeling now, but the style exists. A 4 petonios traditionally had noticeably more concentration and intensity than the 3. The sweetness was more pronounced, and the fruit profile started moving towards riper stone fruits. Think apricot, maybe peach.
Getting richer.
Exactly. You'd often start to detect subtle notes of honey and maybe some warm spices like ginger or cinnamon. The texture would be richer too, starting to feel velvety with a longer finish.
And 5 petonios. This seems to be a common level now.
Yes, 5 petonios is a benchmark, representing a significant level of quality and concentration under the current regulations, which mandate a minimum of 120 grams per liter of residual sugar. This is where the complexity really starts to build dramatically.
How so?
A 5 petonios is typically quite unctuous, really seductive. The flavors deepen into things like crystallized fruits, candied orange peel, dried fig, and you'll find much more evident notes of exotic spices, perhaps cardamom, clove, maybe some caramel, and definitely the first hints of nutty complexity coming from the barrel aging.
Sounds delicious.
It's a significantly richer, more layered wine profile, and it definitely has substantial aging potential.
Okay, then the peak of the traditional scale, and still a key category, 6 petonios.
Ah, the 6 petonios. This represents the highest traditional concentration of Aszú berries, requiring at least 150 grams per liter of sugar now. It's really the apex of sweetness and complexity within the main Aszú classification.
What's it like?
It can be an absolute explosion of flavor, a truly luxurious palate-coating texture. You might find really rich notes of tropical fruits, mango, passion fruit, alongside deep golden honey, intense exotic spices, and complex tertiary notes that develop with extended aging, like tobacco, old leather, maybe even coffee.
Wow. But is it just overwhelmingly sweet?
The sweetness is immense, yes. But crucially, that vibrant signature Tokaj acidity is still there, providing balance and freshness. It makes the wine incredibly harmonious and captivating, despite the intensity. These wines have legendary aging potential, easily decades, sometimes longer.
Decades is impressive, but isn't there a level beyond 6 petonios? The almost mythical essentia?
Yes. Tokaji Aszú, it's in a class completely of its own. It is the sweetest, rarest, most concentrated nectar produced in Tokaj, maybe in the world.
How is it made differently?
It comes purely from the free-run juice of the Botrytis Aszú berries. That means it's only the tiny amount of liquid that naturally drips from the piles of harvested Aszú berries under their own weight. There's no pressing involved at all.
Just the juice that oozes out. The concentration must be absolutely unbelievable.
It is, off the charts. The Essentia has extreme sugar levels, typically somewhere between 450 and, well, sometimes over 800 grams per liter.
800 grams, that's basically syrup.
Pretty much. Because of this, it ferments incredibly slowly, if at all. It can take years, decades sometimes, and the resulting alcohol level is incredibly low, often only 2% to maybe 5% or 6% ABV. It's barely technically wine in some cases.
So what's the experience of actually tasting it like?
It's an experience unlike any other wine. The texture is incredibly viscous, almost like a liquid jewel or a thick golden syrup consistency. The aromas are just overwhelmingly intense and complex layers of crystallized citrus, thick honey, a whole spice rack, wildflowers, saffron, ginger, just on and on.
And the taste.
The sweetness is profound, obviously. But again, almost miraculously, it's balanced by this vibrant, almost electrifying acidity that cuts through and keeps it from being remotely cloying. It's just intense, pure essence.
How long can it last?
Its longevity is legendary. We're talking centuries.
Yeah.
Bottles from the 1800s are apparently still vibrant. It's not really a wine you drink by the glass, obviously. It's traditionally appreciated in tiny quantities, sometimes served on special crystal spoons. It's more of an elixir.
An elixir indeed. Wow. Okay, beyond the Aszú spectrum and essentia, what are the other notable styles we should know about from Tokaj?
Tokaji Aszú is a really important traditional style. The name means something like as it grew or as it was harvested.
What's the key difference from Aszú?
The main difference is that for Samorodni, Botrytis affects whole bunches of grapes to varying degrees, not just individually selected berries. So the harvest includes a mix of healthy grapes, partly botrytized grapes, and maybe some fully Aszú'd berries, all picked together.
And this results in two different styles.
Yes, depending on the level of Botrytis and how it's vinified. There's Samorodni 8As, which is the sweet style. It still has significant residual sugar and shows lovely notes of ripe fruit, honey, and spices, but generally less intense than Aszú.
Okay, the sweet one and the other.
And then there's Samorodni Zares, the dry style. This is fermented completely dry and is often aged, sometimes for extended periods, under a veil of indigenous yeast called flor.
Flor, like the yeast used for sherry in Spain.
Exactly like that, yes. It forms a layer on top of the wine in the barrel, protecting it from excessive oxidation, but also imparting unique flavors.
So what does a dry Samorodni taste like?
It's a fascinating wine. Really complex. You get notes of nuts, almonds, walnuts, dried fruits, spices, sometimes a distinct savory, slightly bitter, or even saline character from that flora influence. It offers a completely different, more oxidative expression of Tokaj's potential, a real window into the region's soul.
It sounds like Tokaj isn't only famous for its sweet wines anymore then. There's a dry side too.
Absolutely not just sweet wines. There's been a huge focus in recent decades, a real renaissance, on producing high-quality dry wines as well, primarily from Furmint, but also Harslaviliu and sometimes blends.
And these are gaining recognition.
Definitely. These dry Tokaji wines are fantastic expressions of the region's volcanic terroir, just in a different register. They can be really exciting.
What should someone expect if they try a dry Tokaji, say a dry Furmint?
They're typically known for their intense freshness and really striking minerality, often described as flinty, wet stone, maybe a smoky note. Yeah. Aromatically, you might find green apple, pear, lemon, sometimes hints of orange blossom, maybe a subtle honeyed note or spice, even in the dry versions.
And structure.
They usually have an elegant structure, bright driving acidity that ferment acidity again, and surprisingly good aging potential for a dry white wine. Some can develop beautifully for years.
Oh, okay, good to know. And is there maybe a more accessible sweet wine option besides the very intensive, expensive Aszú or Essencia?
Yes, absolutely. There's Tokaji Late Harvest or Kisuja Surit in Hungarian.
Late harvest. How does that differ?
These are sweet wines where the grapes are definitely left on the vine longer to concentrate sugars, often developing some botrytis. But typically, the noble rot influence is less intense or less uniform than for the berries meticulously selected for Aszú.
So generally less concentrated than Aszú.
Exactly. They're typically less intensely sweet and less complex than Aszú wines. They don't usually have that same depth of profound concentration, but they're often more accessible, both in style and price, and more youthful in character.
What kind of flavors would you find?
Lovely bright flavors, often peaches, apricots, maybe some raisin notes, delicate honey. They offer a really nice balance of appealing sweetness and refreshing acidity.
And I imagine they're probably more versatile with food pairings, perhaps.
They can be, yes. Late harvest wines pair really well with lighter fruit desserts, maybe mild cheesecakes, or even some slightly pungent cheeses like mild blues. They're also lovely just chilled on their own as an aperitif. They can be a great introduction to the sweet side of Tokaj without the commitment or price point of a high Petunios Aszú.
That gives us a really great overview of the different styles available. Fantastic. Now let's talk about actually experiencing these wines, thinking about their sensory profiles, and that incredible ability to age that you've mentioned several times.
Right. Tasting Tokaji Aszú, especially an older one, is such a multi-layered experience. The aromas alone are a big part of that journey. When the wine is young, you get those more primary notes we talked about. Dried fruits like apricot and fig, honey, maybe orange peel, spices like ginger, and often that distinct mineral edge from the soil.
And as it ages in the bottle, those aromas change significantly.
Oh, they transform beautifully. With age, you see the development of secondary and then tertiary aromas. Complex notes emerge, things like tobacco leaf, toasted nuts, walnuts, almonds, rich caramel, coffee, sometimes even hints of truffle or maple syrup in very, very old examples. The aromatic complexity just deepens dramatically over time.
You've really emphasized the acidity throughout our chat. How does that crucial balance feel on the palate, especially with all that sweetness?
It really is the absolute backbone. It's what prevents the wine, even with hundreds of grams of sugar in some cases, from feeling syrupy or heavy or cloying. That vibrant, almost piercing acidity cuts through the richness and the sweetness, keeping the wine feeling fresh, lively, and balanced even after decades in the bottle. It's precisely this tension, this dynamic interplay between intense sweetness and high acidity that makes Tokaji Aszú so compelling and so incredibly age-worthy.
What about the look and the feel of the wine in the glass and mouth?
Visually, the color transformation is quite dramatic. It starts a beautiful golden hue in its youth and deepens progressively through amber to a rich, dark mahogany or tawny color with significant age. And on the palate, that high sugar content, along with high levels of glycerol and other extracts developed during botrytization, gives it that distinctive viscosity and unctuousness. It has a luxurious, almost velvety mouthfeel that coats the palate.
And the aging potential, we're not just talking a few years here, we're talking decades, potentially.
Absolutely. Decades are commonplace for well-made 5 and 6 Tokaji Aszú from good vintages. And as we said, for Essencia, we're talking potentially centuries. Its exceptional longevity is one of its most legendary and defining characteristics.
Why? Why can it last so long? What actually protects it in the bottle?
It's a combination of factors, really. Firstly, that high acidity acts as a powerful natural preservative, inhibiting spoilage organisms. Secondly, the extremely high sugar content itself creates an environment hostile to microbial growth and also helps protect the wine from oxidation.
So sugar is a preservative, too.
In these concentrations, yes. And thirdly, the noble rot process itself is thought to introduce certain complex compounds, including antioxidants, into the grape must, which further contribute to the wine's stability and resistance to degradation over very long periods.
So aging isn't just about letting it sit there, it's an active transformation happening in the bottle.
It's absolutely a profound transformation. Over years and decades in the bottle, those primary fruit notes become more integrated and complex. The color deepens, as we said, the texture smooths out even further, becoming incredibly silky. The wine gains immense depth, nuance, and a kind of complex harmony that only comes with very long, slow maturation. It develops what many people describe as wisdom.
Wisdom in a bottle. If someone is fortunate enough to get hold of a bottle of Tokaji Aszú, maybe for the first time, any tips on how best to serve it to appreciate all this complexity?
Definitely. To get the most out of it, you want to serve it chilled, but not ice cold. That would mute the aromas. Ideally, aim for somewhere between 10 to 12 degrees Celsius, which is about 50 to 54 Fahrenheit.
Okay, cellar temperature, basically.
Pretty much. And in terms of glassware, choose a decent white wine glass. One with a reasonably generous bowl to allow swirling and oxygen contact, but importantly, one that tapers towards the rim. That tapered shape helps to capture and concentrate those incredibly complex aromas, delivering them right to your nose and really enhancing the whole sensory experience.
Excellent practical advice. Thank you. Now let's talk about pairing this incredible wine with food. We've touched on it, but you hear about the classic matches all the time.
Yes, and some pairings with Tokaji Aszú are considered classic or even iconic. For a very good reason, they just create pure magic together. Foie gras or rich duck or goose over pâté is probably right at the top of that list.
Why does that work so well?
The wine's vibrant acidity slices right through the rich, fatty texture of the liver, cleansing the palate. At the same time, its intense sweetness and complexity perfectly match the intensity of the foie gras. It's just a truly divine symbiosis, a classic for centuries.
I can absolutely picture that. And blue cheeses, you mentioned them earlier.
Blue cheeses are another classic winner. Think powerful, pungent, salty blues like Roquefort, Gorgonzola Picante, or a good Stilton. Their intensity finds a perfect counterpoint in the sweetness and layered complexity of the Tokaji Aszú.
How does that interaction work?
The sweetness tames the cheese's pungency and saltiness, while the wine's fruit, honey, and nutty notes create this beautiful dialogue with the bold, savory character of the cheese. It's that fantastic contrast. Again, sweet meeting salty and savory, always compelling.
Okay, makes sense. What about desserts? Is it just a dessert wine?
It's a fantastic partner for many desserts, but not just a dessert wine. For desserts, it works particularly well with fruit-based ones, especially those featuring stone fruits like apricots, peaches, or maybe apples or pears fruits that often echo the notes in the wine itself. Also great with desserts featuring dried fruits or nuts.
How does it enhance them?
The wine's own inherent fruit notes amplify the natural sweetness of the dessert's fruit. And the caramel and spice notes that develop in aged Aszú can intertwine wonderfully with baked or cooked food components, or nutty elements in things like tarts or cakes.
Those are the pairings maybe people expect, but You hinted earlier there might be more innovative or surprising uses.
Oh, definitely. Tokaji Aszú is far more versatile than many people give it credit for.
Yeah.
It's not just for the end of the meal or the cheese course. It can be absolutely spectacular with certain savory dishes, especially those that have complex flavor profiles involving sweetness, spice, or richness.
Really? Like what kind of savory dishes?
Think about some styles of Asian cuisine, for instance, especially dishes where you have that dynamic balance of spicy heat, sweetness, and sourness.
How would the wine interact there?
The wine's sweetness can help tame the chili heat, while its high acidity can cut through richness and balance any sweet and sour elements in the sauce. You could try it, for example, with a moderately spicy pad thai, or maybe a dish like kung pao chicken, or even something with ginger and honey glazes.
That's genuinely surprising and intriguing. What other savory ideas?
Really, any savory dish that incorporates elements of sweetness, umami, or fruitiness could potentially be a fascinating partner. Consider maybe pork dishes served with fruit-based sauces like cherry, fig, or prune. Or perhaps richer poultry, like duck with an orange sauce. Even certain risottos, maybe one with roasted butternut squash, sage, and amaretti biscuits, or perhaps figs and prosciutto.
You're really opening up possibilities here.
These kinds of pairings can be unexpectedly delicious. They really showcase the wine's adaptability beyond the usual suspects and create some really memorable flavor combinations.
It sounds like the specific style of tokaji you choose would be pretty important for these pairings, too.
Oh, absolutely critical. You wouldn't pair a delicate late harvest with a powerful Roquefort, nor would you necessarily want a complex aged 6 Pitonnios with a very light food salad. A crisp, dry Furmint is perfect with grilled fish or oysters. A Samorodnisaris could be great with smoked meats or nutty cheeses. The late harvest works with those lighter desserts or maybe spicy spring rolls. And the richer, higher Pitonnios Aszú wines really demand those intense pairings like the foie gras, the strong blue cheeses, or very complex desserts. Understanding the specific style and its weight and intensity opens up a whole world of pairing possibilities.
Okay, great insight. Beyond the bottle on the table, let's zoom out a bit and look at the market for Tokaji Aszú today and the experience of actually visiting the region. It sounds like it has definitely reclaimed its place on the international stage after those difficult times.
It absolutely has. After the challenges of the 20th century and that subsequent renaissance, it's firmly recognized again as a world-class fine wine. Top producers names like Nectar, Royal Tokaji, Oremus, Kiralidvar, Tokas Nobilis, Sepsi, and others are highly respected globally. Their wines are sought after by collectors, sommeliers, and enthusiasts who appreciate unique, high-quality wines with history.
But the market for sweet wine, generally speaking, is still quite a niche one compared to dry wines, isn't it?
It is undeniably a niche market, yes. And that remains a key challenge for Tokaj educating consumers, especially in some markets, to see Tokaji Aszú as more than just an occasional after-dinner wine or something only for dessert.
So where's the opportunity?
The opportunity lies in emphasizing everything we've talked about. Its unique history, its exceptional quality, its rarity due to the difficult production, its incredible aging potential, and importantly, its versatility with a wider range of foods, including savory dishes. It's really positioned for those wine lovers seeking something truly special, authentic, and with a deep story in the global fine wine market.
And the region itself, Tokaj-Hegyalja, is now a destination for visitors.
Definitely. It's been a UNESCO World Heritage Site, recognized for its unique wine landscape and tradition since 2002, and it offers a really quite unique eno-tourism experience.
What's it like there?
The landscape itself is stunningly beautiful. You have these rolling volcanic hills covered in meticulously tended vineyards, charming historic villages nestled among them, and the Bodrog and Tisza rivers winding through the valley. It's very picturesque.
And can you visit those legendary cellars you mentioned?
Oh, yes. Exploring the historical cellars is a real highlight for many visitors. Lots of wineries offer tours. Many of these cellars are centuries old, hand-dug deep into that volcanic rock, lined with the famous black cellar mold.
What can you do there?
You can visit wineries, learn directly from the producers about the region's history and the unique methods involved in making Aszú and the other styles. And, of course, you can participate in tastings, which often span the full range from crisp, dry ferments right up to exquisite, aged Aszú wines, maybe even a taste of essentia, if you're lucky.
Is it more than just wine tasting, though? Is there a broader cultural experience?
Absolutely. It's a chance for a rich cultural immersion. You can enjoy the regional gastronomy, which is naturally evolved to complement the local wines. There are local food and wine festivals throughout the year. You can explore the natural beauty of the landscape, hiking, cycling, maybe kayaking on the rivers, the architecture in the villages, the local customs, the festivals. It all provides a deep sense of the region's unique heritage and soul.
It really sounds like a place with a deep soul, deeply connected to its wine. Okay, looking towards the future now. What are the major challenges facing Tokaji Aszú, especially given its reliance on that very specific, very sensitive natural phenomenon, botrytis?
Yeah, this is the big question mark, the most significant challenge on the horizon, and it's obviously a global one impacting wine regions everywhere, is the impact of climate change.
How is it affecting Tokaji specifically?
The changes in temperature and, crucially, rainfall patterns are introducing a lot of uncertainty into the very conditions needed for noble rot to develop reliably and beneficially. We're seeing trends towards hotter, drier summers, which can stress the vines, but also more unpredictable autumns, sometimes still too dry, sometimes sudden heavy rains or even floods right around harvest time.
How does that affect that delicate botrytis dance between fog and sun that you described earlier?
It makes it much less reliable, less predictable. That precise, magical sequence of cool, foggy mornings followed by sunny, breezy afternoons is becoming harder to count on year after year. This disruption to the delicate balance of the traditional microclimate is a real threat to the consistent, high-quality production of Aszú grapes. Some years might be great for botrytis, others might be very difficult.
So adaptation isn't just desirable, it's becoming essential for survival.
Absolutely essential. And the region is actively working on it. Growers and producers are engaging with technology and focusing on sustainable practices to build resilience.
What kind of things are they doing?
Well, that includes adopting smarter water management systems, like drip irrigation, where permitted to cope with drought periods. There's ongoing research into selecting vine clones of Furmint and other varieties that might be more resilient to heat, drought, or certain diseases, and potentially adapting some time-honored winemaking methods to suit grapes harvested under different conditions.
Are they using technology to monitor the changing conditions more closely?
Yes, definitely. There's increasing use of sensors in the vineyards to track temperature, humidity, soil moisture in real time. Climate modeling is being used to try and predict potential challenges during the growing season and better understand the nuances of how botrytis might develop under future climate scenarios. And alongside this, there's a strong push towards more sustainable vineyard practices, overall reducing chemical use, improving soil health, adopting renewable energy sources where possible.
This brings up a really fascinating tension, though, doesn't it? How do you preserve a tradition and identity that is so deeply tied to very specific ancient methods, like handpicking single berries, while also embracing the innovation that seems necessary to solve these profound modern challenges?
That is the central question, the core dilemma facing Tokaji's future right now. The very identity, the soul of Tokaji Aszú is inseparable from those traditional practices, especially the meticulous, manual, selective harvesting of botrytized berries. Any significant changes, whether it's to harvest timing, which grape varieties thrive best, or even adjustments in the cellar, could potentially alter the fundamental character of the wine that's been cherished for centuries.
So any changes have to be handled with extreme care and consideration.
Immense care, yes.
Okay.
Any innovations, any adaptations have to be implemented with deep respect for the centuries of accumulated local knowledge and tradition. It's a constant, delicate balancing act between honoring the unique past that made the wine great in the first place and adapting pragmatically to the undeniable realities of a rapidly changing climate and environment.
What's your overall sense of the future for Tokaji Aszú, then? Is it one of cautious optimism, or are the challenges potentially overwhelming?
I think cautious optimism is probably the right way to put it. The future is undeniably uncertain because of these climate challenges and maybe market challenges too. But there's also immense promise. The focus within the region is so clearly on maintaining the absolute highest quality, on committing to long-term sustainability, and on continuing to tell the unique story of Tokaji Aszú, its rarity, the incredible challenges involved in making it, and its exceptional timeless quality.
It sounds like the dedication of the people actually working in Tokaj is a key factor in that optimism.
It truly is. The passion, the knowledge, the resilience of the growers and the winemakers in Tokaj are palpable when you visit or talk to them. They're deeply personally invested in ensuring that this legendary wine of kings not only survives the significant challenges of the 21st century, but continues to thrive and enchant wine lovers for generations to come.
What a remarkable journey we've taken today. Really. From ancient origins and that almost unbelievable story of an accidental discovery born from conflict, through centuries of global fame, then periods of struggle, a powerful renaissance, and now facing these profound uncertainties of climate change head on.
It's covered a lot of ground. History, nature, human ingenuity.
Absolutely. We've explored the unique terroir, the rivers, the hills, those volcanic soils. We've met the sacred triad of grapes and their supporting cast. We've delved into the incredibly meticulous, time-honored process of creating Aszú berry by berry. We've navigated the range of distinct styles, from dry to the elixir of essentia. We've touched on its incredible sensory evolution over decades, even centuries, and we've uncovered its surprising versatility with food.
It's a wine deeply, uniquely rooted in its specific place, a testament to human perseverance, adaptation, and maybe a little bit of luck from nature, and definitely a survivor.
Hopefully you, our listener, feel you've just gained some deep knowledge quickly about this truly extraordinary wine. As we finish this deep dive, here's maybe something to consider, a final thought to mull over. How must a wine like Tokaji Aszú, whose very essence, whose entire existence is so intricately tied to a precise, finicky, natural phenomenon like noble rot occurring in a specific microclimate, how must it constantly navigate that incredibly difficult balance? The balance between honoring its ancient defining traditions and identity and the urgent, practical need to adapt to the profound environmental changes brought by our modern climate. What does the future truly hold for this king of wines as it faces a world where its very foundational conditions are becoming less and less certain year after year?